What's the biggest loss for the red zone offense? Chip Kelly as the play caller or Will Howard's legs? Landis, let me run through all of these and then we can double back one by one.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, I'm glad Bill asked about the Lincoln third down run. Do you guys see more of that package emerging as the games get bigger? Alex, do you think we showed the Lincoln package as something to keep opposing teams on their toes, or do you think that'll be something that gets utilized more, especially in the red zone? Frankie, do you think we could see Sayin be used as a runner at all, specifically in the red zone? Josh D, is this not a carbon copy of the 2018 offense? Can throw the ball all over the yard, but struggle in the run game and terrible in the red zone. Josh, we are talking a lot different about the red zone if Tate and JJ come down with those passes that they dropped in the end zones, balls that probably should have been caught. Also, I hate the fade. The best deep red zone passing play is just to snap the ball and let your quarterback find someone. Charles P., I recognize it was just one game, but in my defense, Doug did write a whole article about it after the game, so I want to ask about the red zone. What will be the single most important change in the red zone offense if the Buckeyes can return to that high TD percentage they had last year? Is it more Bo Jackson? Is it Sayin gets better at finding the open guy? Is it the Lincoln package? Is it Sayin gets involved in the run game? Or is it something else? So I did write about it on Substack. You and I talked about it. You approved the topic, yes? I was not lunatic frenzy on this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Ohio State in the Ryan Day era, he's had 8 full seasons running the offense. This is the 9th. They've had 3 seasons where they were really good in red zone touchdown percentage in the top 5, top 6 in the country. And they've had 5 seasons where they've been pretty average, like 35th through 65th. And the difference of that is, do you score touchdowns around like 60 to 66% of the time? If you do so, that's going to put you between 30th and 70th in the country. If you score red zone touchdowns like 75, 77% of the time, that's going to make you one of the 5 or 10 best red zone touchdown offenses in the country. So that doesn't seem like a lot. Like over the course of a season, that might be a difference of 5 or 6 extra touchdowns. Depending on the opponent, those 5 or 6 extra touchdowns, one here, one there, maybe 2 in this game, might be determine whether or not you win a national championship. So, how big of an issue do you think it is at the moment?
I don't know that I'm like huge issue necessarily. I agree with the one commenter. I think Carnell Tate should have caught that one. So if he catches that there, the other thing I said to you before we started the show, it's like they were technically 2 of 6 in the red zone, but one of the trips was they got to the 20 and kicked the field goal. So they were really 2 of 5.
Ryan Day counted that.
It goes in the stat sheet. It counts against their touchdown percentage. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't count, but I think if we want to talk about actual issues, like I would remove that play, unless you want to say the issue is kicking a field goal on 4th and 2, which I would agree with. But that's not like a red zone issue. That's a be more aggressive. But I think Ryan Day was also trying to send a message to his team by kicking a field goal there in that particular moment. So you want to call it 2 of 5. Carnell Tate catches his touchdown. They're 3 of 5, right? After Carnell Tate didn't catch that touchdown, they had the 4th down play where Sayin scrambled and got out. That guy made a heck of a play to trip him up.
Yeah, he did.
Because if he did, Carnell Tate was open and they would have scored a touchdown. So yeah, like, the answer is like, what's the fix? It's like all of the above, everything that everyone mentioned. Like, yes, they do miss a quarterback with running ability. If you look at the teams that are the best at scoring touchdowns in the red zone, they usually have a quarterback who can run. Even Ohio State's best red zone offenses, with the exception of 2022, have come with a quarterback who can run. Justin Fields and Will Howard. Will Howard was a huge part of it. I actually don't think Will Howard was a great red zone passer, but he was a good red zone runner. I think Sayin can be a good red zone passer. I think he can operate with a little more urgency in the red zone, because you don't have a lot of time and space to do things. So there were a couple of red zone plays where it was like, first read's not there. Nice job, Ohio. Let's find something else. But he didn't do it very quickly. And I think in those moments where he didn't do it very quickly, he did miss some stuff. There was a play where I mentioned Brandon Innes was open. There was a play where I felt like Carnell Tate was coming open, but Julian Sayin never looked to that side of the field. So I don't know that I have a ton of issue with red zone play calling. The only red zone play that I really didn't like was after Bo Jackson's 64-yard run. They got into the red zone, took a delay of game penalty like right after that. So they're 1st and 15 behind the sticks in the red zone, and on first down they ran the ball. That was and for 3 yards, and then it's 2nd and 12, and it's like, well, this is a pretty high degree of difficulty now because of a penalty, which shouldn't have happened, and then I think running the ball on first down was probably not the right call. Other than that, like, I don't know that I thought there were a lot of like boneheaded decisions in terms of the things they were trying to do while they were in the red zone. I really do think it came down to a lack of execution, and that applies to different people at different times. I thought Julian Sayin could have been cleaner in moments. I thought CJ Donaldson should have scored on that second drive, and he didn't twice. I thought on the first one, a couple of the early runs when he got into the red zone were not blocked particularly well before Carnell Tate passed in the end zone. So I know I'm like laying out a lot of things. I guess I would say like generally didn't have much of a problem with what they were trying to accomplish in the red zone. A lot of it was execution, but definitely things would be helped if they had a quarterback who could run some, which is why I do think they'll use Lincoln Kienholz in those situations more.
So I do think in the past, some of the frustration has been when they've really tried to lean on the run game and short yardage and in the red zone, and it is not working. Mm-hmm. And I think we've had a lot of conversations when it hasn't been great in the past about why aren't they use their best weapons, which is the passing game and their receivers, to get down the field. And then when they get in tight, it's not who they use. They go to what they're second best at. I actually think the idea that they are trying to throw the ball in the red zone is a good sign. And Ryan Day said the things you just said. He basically said Carnell Tate should have caught that one. He thought Carnell Tate should have tried to go over the defensive back's head and grab that. So that's one if he gets that. The Jeremiah Smith fade, he thought basically that Julian Sayin probably should have thrown it up a little higher and given Jeremiah Smith a better chance. But he thinks that should work. And then I actually think Sayin did get out of the pocket twice in the red zone, I think in a very encouraging way. One was a touchdown pass to Max Clare, where he kept the play alive, scrambled right. Clare just did a great job of just running through that guy in the secondary in the end zone, knocking him to the ground and making himself open. That I actually think was a tremendous make a play moment from two guys that I think Ohio State is wanting to make plays, Julian Sayin and Max Clare. And then he did the same thing on a CJ Donaldson pass, which would have been a touchdown, except CJ Donaldson stepped out of bounds by a millimeter. Right. And I think that was very encouraging. So that Sayin, he's not, when he's getting down there, he had a couple moments where he didn't chuck it in the stands. He didn't chuck it into a linebacker's chest. If it wasn't there, it wasn't there. He then tried to make something happen, and he did. So it did feel like, do you think they should continue? Do you think they're doing a good job with the play calling in red zone passing? And do you think they will continue that? And can they be a good red zone passing team? Because as you said, in 22, when they were really good, that was CJ Stroud in year 2. They had more red zone touchdowns passing than running that year. And that to me is like, that was year 2 of CJ just being able to process in the moment. So you're asking a lot of Julian as a year 1 quarterback to do it, but I also think they can. And I think the thing that Ohio State fans get most frustrated about in the red zone is when they're insistent on running, and the running is clearly not working. And I don't think that's not where they are right now.
I did not really feel that. I'm just like going through all the red zone plays. Like I wouldn't say that I felt like they were just trying to make something happen that they're not equipped to do by like trying to power their way into the end zone. I do think they can become a good throwing red zone team, because Julian Sayin is accurate. He can throw on the move. I think he's twitchy enough to get away. In some of the instances you're describing, part of me wonders like he did. So they had one red zone trip against Texas. It was like a low red zone trip. They did just kind of run the ball in there. Grambling, you're just like, you can do whatever you want. So like this was kind of, and I'm not saying like Ohio's great, but it's a step up from what it was last week. These were sort of the first opportunities, I think, for Julian Sayin to be in some of these situations as a starting quarterback. And the hope is that he learns from them and he's better the next time they occur. They'll be more difficult because from now on, they'll be against Big Ten teams or somebody Ohio State's playing in the postseason. So I'm not trying to pretend like it'll suddenly become easy for him, but I think we do have to allow a little bit of room for a young quarterback to experience things for the first time. Maybe they don't always look great. Hopefully he's better the next time they happen. Now, if it's a consistent issue, we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep asking about it, but I didn't think it was like all bad. And to your point, there were a couple of plays that were actually pretty encouraging. So I think The Claire play, I think, is a good example, right? Like they were trying to run I think that was they were trying to run a wheel to Brandon Innes. Yeah, Brandon Innes like ran into the flat and then turned it up into a wheel. The defender played it well, which is kind of like sitting there. It was the right decision, I thought, to not throw the ball to Brandon Innes. But then very quickly, Julian Sayin like got out and got to his right and found somebody open. I don't know that he operated with the same level of urgency on every single red zone drop back, but I think that play is like a good one you can sort of bottle up and try to replicate moving forward. So I'm not trying to tell anybody like, actually, you're wrong. It was good. Like it wasn't a good day in the red zone. But I do think there were a couple of things you can grab onto that you could choose to view as encouraging if you consider that it was kind of the first time Julian Sayin had to do some of this stuff.
We also have had conversations about red zone and short yardage things of, man, this run game is not working. Can they just run a jet sweep to Emeka Buka? What are they doing? Like you're relying on the wrong people. It counts as a red zone touchdown. The 17-yard reverse to Jeremiah Smith is a little bit of that. It's sort of like the failures and the successes. They're targeting Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate up and down the field, and they are also targeting them in the red zone. Has it not? Haven't we felt that in the past? Like the biggest red flag is when you get to scoring time, you're not relying on your best players. And Saturday night, they still relied on their best players. It just didn't work every time.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. There are definitely times where you're just like sort of like scratching your head, thinking to yourself, like, what are they trying to do?
Right.
And I don't know that I felt that way. I might have felt that because it's hard to not feel that way when you're like not getting the job done live. But then like rewatching it, I definitely didn't feel that way.
Okay.
So I guess that's good. Now again, play at Washington in 2 weeks. If you don't finish drives and score touchdowns, you're probably going to lose that game, and then we'll have more conversation about it. But they have 2 weeks to figure it out, and 2 weeks for Julian Sayin to watch a lot of tape in those moments and learn from it. So we'll see what it looks like next time.
It is my instinct to also not like the fade in the red zone, but a one-on-one matchup, they were kind of in tight with Jeremiah Smith on the bottom by himself. On that fade. Is a fade to Jeremiah Smith always a good call? It's one-on-one.
Yeah, I think so. With the way Carnell Tate's playing, I might say the same thing about him. I guess the only thing, it felt like he was so far out wide that there just was not a lot of space like to get that done. And I think like I agree with Ryan Day. The ball probably could have been a little bit more on a line, but Jeremiah like was getting pushed, like had one hand on it, but also was like practically almost out of bounds. Maybe, if you're going to try to do that, give him a little more space to operate. But no, I don't think I'll have much of a problem with a fade to Jeremiah most of the time.
Would you use Julian Sayin in the run game in the red zone?
Yeah, I think they have to, and I think he can do it. Unless you don't have to do it all the time. I think you have to show it. You have to show that you're willing to do it and back defenses off a little bit. And I think he can. He's like a decent athlete, right? It's the same thing with CJ Stroud. It's like once CJ Stroud decided he was going to run, it's like, that looks pretty good. Like I don't want you to do it every time, but it's nice to know that you can do that occasionally. And I think Julian Sayin, while not the same stature as CJ Stroud, could be used in similar ways. Yeah, I think he will do it a little bit, or at the very least, just like move the pocket some and don't put him in a position to just like sit back there. It's hard, man. Like this to sit back there and try to find guys open in the red zone when you're stationary and everyone else is running around. So get a little more movement throws down there too, I think could help.